It's time to see what else I bought at that auction. Welcome back, troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. That's right, today we're going to finish off the 5th, 6th, and 7th guitar I got at the Estate360 auctions that we talked about in this episode. But these are the boxes that were packed normally, unlike the one from this episode where they packed 4 guitars together. Now, wouldn't it be ironic if these are the ones that got broken? But you'll be happy to know that I cracked the code why these got packed normally. It's because they're big like Explorer and Flying V cases. They couldn't fit in with the Les Pauls. So let's see what we've got in box number 1. We've got the world's worst combination, bubble wrap and packing peanuts. Pro tip, if you're going to do this, put the packing peanuts all in the bottom half of the box and bubble wrap at the top. Then it's not such a pain in the butt for the guy who has to open it. So we're being honest here, these packing peanuts didn't even do anything for that pack job. The bubble wrap was just fine. But it seems I bought like the top 3 poster children from this auction. I was very happy to ended up winning this because what's in here might look slightly familiar to you. It's another Union Jack Explorer. That's right, I'm the guy who's buying all of these things. I don't know why. I just kind of am tied to it in kind of a personal way, and just because they're super ultra rare, which makes them cool. So we already knew these guitars weren't stored perfectly, and here's a very good telltale sign of that. You see how much this decal has shrunk? We've actually exposed just pure lacquer right here, but at one point in time the decal would have went all the way there. It just got exposed to the air, so it's starting to shrink, and that's what causes all this crazing. I mean, you cannot find a Union Jack Explorer that does not have that. You can also see some areas right here where the decal's splitting, because it's basically kind of like tape that they put on here and then they finished over it. The wood will move at different rates than the design. That's kind of what makes my controversial Les Paul Custom really cool, is the fact that it was painted, so we don't have to worry about that. But how is our neck? Other than some stand rash along the edges, it appears to have arrived okay. Got a bit of buckle wear back here, but I was expecting that. So yeah, overall, this was a pretty good pickup. However, I think it's definitely the runt of my litter, so if someone wants to make the right offer, I would let one go. But whoa, do you see that? Why is that just a random blue? You know what happened there? That is the original finish that hasn't yellowed. So there must have been a sticker or something at the top. That's funny. It kind of gives it character. It also just shows you how aged that yellow lacquer is across everything else. But oh my goodness, I didn't even notice. My tuners have fallen apart. I don't remember it being in the auction like that. I mean, it almost looks like it fell apart in shipping. Because there's one right there, and okay, there it is down there. Hopefully those aren't stripped or anything, and I can actually just reattach them. I like that we had this. This is a message to the guy who just auctioned all his stuff off from the person who ended up selling it to him in the first place. And oof, somebody's moved our strap button, but I get it. It falls off right there. But at least I got the original case, because some of my Union Jacks are missing that. But before we continue our unboxing journey, let's hear a word from our sponsor, Sweetwater. I've been a customer of theirs for well over 10 years. If you need any type of new music gear, they're the place to go. I find that they're one of the easiest ones to shop online from, because I'm buying a lot of high-end guitars, right? So I want to be able to see the top, I want to know how much it weighs, and I want it presented in a manner that makes a lot of sense. And that's exactly what their website offers. They even have a used gear marketplace. And if you're local to their Fort Wayne, Indiana campus, they also have music lessons, they have some cool events. And hey, they also do monthly giveaways that you can enter by clicking that link in the description. Thank you, Sweetwater, for sponsoring tonight's episode. Now let's get back to some cool guitars. Now these last 2 guitars are kind of a set, so I'm just going to unbox them together, and we'll eventually do a full review and documentation on them. Seriously, don't mix bubble wrap and packing peanuts. So let's start with the one that I've already reviewed and documented. I believe this one is from the year 2009. Now when I say already reviewed and documented, it was way long ago. It was kind of when I was first developing my style. But do you see what is in here, my friends? It is the Holy Explorer. It's just such a ridiculously goofy name and concept. You can't help but love these things. So essentially, they took an Explorer faded guitar, they cut holes in it, made it a limited edition, and tried to sell as many of them as they could, and they were a relative success. On the used market, these things don't show up too often, and when they do show up, they're usually not in that good of condition, because somebody bought it to play. And thankfully, first glance, this thing's looking all right. Certainly much cleaner than my first one that I documented, but I'll look at this one under a fine-tooth comb later on to see if it should be a part of my personal collection. But this one definitely doesn't feel quite as grimy, like it's just dusty, so maybe he didn't have this one in storage as long. But I'm really excited for this next one. I told you these were a set. However, this one's a bit different because it's actually part of the Guitar of the Month collection. If I remember correctly, it was the very last one. And then they're like, hey, we did it on this one. We might as well do it to the Explorer. So that means we're talking none other than the infamous Holy Flying V. Take a look at that. I've always thought the Flying V was a little bit cooler because you get a V shape right here. You get a bound ebony fretboard with the crazy inlays. And Steinberger gearless tuners with another V shape cut out of the headstock. And also, you get the fancy Guitar of the Month case. But what's extra cool about this is it's just a single bridge humbucker. So you've just got a whole lot to take in here. I mean, it's basically still a faded Flying V, just in a cherry color. But it's got a little bit higher end appointments. I never realized just how different the Holy Flying V was as compared to the Explorer. The Explorer does feel rather cheap. And this kind of has a cheap aesthetic to it as well, but at least it's got the other cool features. So we will 100% see a full review and documentation of this. And if nothing else, I now have this weird set in my collection. So overall, do I regret buying the Estate360 guitars? They're not quite as bad as I thought they were going to be, but they're definitely going to take some time to get cleaned and processed. So I'm going to say no, I don't regret it because I did get a few unique, interesting pieces. And things like this set, now there's an additional story of why I got them, not that I pieced them together. But our next unboxing here is actually a gift from a viewer of the show of something that I'm actually going to enjoy using. So you know these stands that I use, the whole Gibson designed by Zither stands? They're really expensive. They're like $250 from Gibson. They look nice and I don't regret buying them. However, I always get flooded with comments of people saying, I can make that for like $10. So a friendly viewer decided to put his money where his mouth was and custom make me a couple of these just by himself. Now for legal reasons, I want to say these are not for sale. They were done just for me so I can use them as I create all these guitar videos. And I think he was just kind of curious on how we did. But he wanted to make them a little bit extra special, so he had somebody engrave my vintage Trogly's guitar logo on it. That's kind of cool. Yeah, this feels remarkably similar. I would actually say it's a little bit heavier. That's like a good cutting board quality. I like the smoky color of the wood here too. So here we go, side-by-side comparison. How did Cecil do? I'd say pretty good. It's a little bit thicker, which is probably a good thing. I would say it's maybe just a tad bit wider. Again, probably a good thing. But he's got the exact same little bumpers down here. They both utilize the string swing. The only difference is Zither uses these kinds of screws, whereas he supplied me with this style. And I can put these into great use. So thank you very much. I think you did an excellent job. And now we've got one more guitar. Let me tell you, I filmed both of these unboxings at the same time. I'm running out of room here. There's just guitars and boxes and packing stuff everywhere. But let's get our one last double box guitar open here. So the story behind this one is it was a new Guitar Day purchase, but since the last time I tried to help this viewer get a guitar, things went very awry, and we ended up having to buy him a completely different guitar. That was that Leo Scala V. I wanted to make sure he got this guitar as soon as possible, so I did my usual location, placed the pre-order for him, but then one popped up on Reverb, so I snapped it up there, because I didn't want this guy waiting forever, and then, oh, turns out the dealer's not going to get this guitar. So this one is a spare. It's going to be for sale. If you're interested in it, great. If not, I'm sure somebody on Reverb will snap this up because they have been selling pretty well since the Gibson USA version came out. I wasn't even supposed to get this until about October, so I just forgotten to cancel my pre-order, and I just feel weird doing that because I feel like I committed to buy the guitar. So here we are, one last time for your guys' viewing pleasure as extra bonus content, a Greeny Les Paul. I'd say this one looks kind of similar to my last one. Maybe not quite as much flame, but it still has the right amount. I would say it almost looks a little bit more vintage. And I'd have to A and B it, but this looks a little bit more heavily worn in this area. And okay, now the flame top's coming out. And okay, yeah, that aging is very different from the last one. So the rumor on the street is the initial collector's choice was actually aged by Murphy himself, and then these $20,000 custom shop versions were just Gibson's in-house aging. That's just the rumor on the street. I'm not exactly sure if that's what the case is, but it does seem to be like that. However, the last time I had reviewed this guitar, the USA version had not came out yet, or I hadn't reviewed it yet, so I wasn't sure what the pickup situation was going to be like. They're labeled as the exact same pickups, but they just didn't sound anything like the custom shop ones. So that kind of breathed some life into this whole 20K version, as yes, it's just about as good as the 50K one, the aging's just a little bit different, and yeah, while that $3,200 version gets you somewhere in the ballpark, it's not exactly the same, and it really comes down to just the way that it's wired. Maybe some of the capacitors and whatnot. There's a little bit of a debate when it comes to that. So if this sits around in my shop too long, maybe I'll buy another one of those 3200 Greenies and just try to rewire it to see, is it really the wiring that does all that? Because the new Guitar Day purchaser for the Gibson USA version actually asked, after I had already packed it up, if I would do that. And it's like, I would love to, but that I own, that way if something goes wrong, I'm not like, oh yeah, sorry, I messed up your guitar, but here it is. But I'm still not 100% set on that, because to be honest, I'm kind of greenied out. We've had so many of these things that have been reviewed and documented. They're beautiful guitars, but I feel we have enough content on these right now. But if you're interested in this one, you can find it on my website, not at a super crazy premium or anything like that. I will say it's a very nice lightweight example. All right, Troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed this little unboxing journey. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you tomorrow on the next one. Take care. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, consider subscribing. I post videos like this every day, and you might even enjoy this next one.